Return to American Manhood. Brought to you by CHOQ.
Being a man matters. Having a society of strong men matters a lot. And you notice I said strong men because for as long as I've been alive, America has been angling itself towards telling men that they're weak, they're stupid, they're not that important. The almighty woman is all that matters. What will we do without the saintly women telling us how to put on our shoes? But I've got news for you. Society doesn't need that, and women don't need or want that either. We have become a society of pathetic men. And now it's gotten all the way up to the President of the United States of America doing this, oh, I'm just a stupid old guy routine. Where's my wife telling me where to go?
We'll go down on this. We'll go down here on this one. Wait. Come on up, Joe. No, you're not going to dance, believe me. We don't want to ruin the evening. Joe, pay attention.
Haha, it's so cute and funny. Haha, look how stupid the man is. I don't find it to be cute and funny. I find it to be repulsive. And I find it to be a big reason why this nation is going downhill. Because men have given up their manhood. They've given it over to women who are now forced to carry the burden, which they're not supposed to carry anyway, because men don't want to be strong. They don't want to be leaders. In fact, they brag, they laugh about how weak and stupid they are. And it is a crisis in this society. What do you think, by the way, what do you think all this tranny nonsense has come into play? Why do you think you even know who Dylan Mulvaney is?
Day 66, being a girl, and today I'm in nature. Trees, I love them. Water, lakes, I love them. Heels, they're my hiking heels. I love them. Okay, come on.
Do you think a society run by strong men would even allow a fruitcake like that to get any sort of notoriety? Today, they're slapping them on your beer cans. I hear people lament many parts of what's happened to America, but they miss oftentimes one of the most basic, important parts. If you could have your perfect government, the perfect politician as your congressman and senator and president and state rep, and you could just design the perfect government just the way you wanted it, yet we didn't change what has happened to men in this country, you would have saved nothing whatsoever. Until men return to being men, we will be a lost country because men are a critical building block to society. Men have a role. Men have roles as leaders, as protectors. Women have roles as nurturers, as mothers, as wives. We have specific roles we were created for. And as long as we deny those roles, as long as we act like those roles don't matter, or they're not important at all, we are going to continue to spiral downhill as a nation. Testosterone is not a small thing, it's everything. Fatherhood is not a small thing, it's everything. Being a strong man is not a small thing, it's in everything. And by the way, let's talk about that strength thing for a minute. We're actually going to bring on a physical trainer, easy for me to say, I sound like Joe Biden. We're going to bring on a physical trainer tonight as well. Look, I'm not telling you you have to be a Greek god. I'm certainly not. But this is something else we've gone away from as men. You know, as a man, you're supposed to work yourself out physically. You're supposed to, or do physical labor. You're supposed to be a physical person. That's part of the reason you're built that way. That's why you're here. And we ignore that too. Or we talk down about it. Oh, look at this meathead there. No. These are things that matter to us. They're what can save this country. So we have to discuss being a man more, what it means, how we accomplish it at all, because that's another thing that really breaks my heart today. You see so many men in this society longing for something. And when you dig into it, you can tell they're longing to be more of a man, and they're longing to be guided on how to do that. So you'll see men do things like throw themselves into some civilian type boot camp, right? And you get people pointing and laughing at them. Oh my gosh, why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through that? Men do these things trying for something they've been denied. Men know deep down inside they're supposed to be strong. They're supposed to be tough. They're supposed to do all these things. They just don't know where to get it, and it saddens me. So unless we start talking about it, unless we start figuring out how to turn this around and change things, we can't save the country. Until we save ourselves, until we save men, until men become men again, we cannot save the country, all right? Now, I just mentioned fatherhood, because that's a place it has to start. You have to be a dad. You do, to your sons and daughters. That's part of being a man. And we're going to discuss the importance of that in just a moment. Now, before we discuss that, I do want to discuss this. Part of your building block as a man is testosterone. It's about a lot more than having kids and making kids. You need it to think. You need it to control your emotions. Whether you're 20 or 80, you must have it. Get a male vitality stack from CHOQ to make sure you have it. You're going to find out later on in the show why you're consuming so many estrogens and why testosterone levels are in free fall. But the why almost doesn't matter. We just have to address the problem. Get a male vitality stack, natural herbal supplements flowing through your veins. 20% increase in testosterone in 90 days. Get on one for a year and tell me how you feel. But you'll feel a difference in 90 days. Go to CHOQ.com. Promo code Jesse gets you 35% off a subscription. Go get one now, all right? We'll be back.
The Return to American Manhood, brought to you by CHOQ. The Return to American Manhood, brought to you by CHOQ.
Fatherhood. It matters a lot. I know we're supposed to be in this day and age where the almighty woman does it all and the poor, stupid oaf of a man can barely tie his shoes without Saint Woman helping him. But no, men matter. Fatherhood is really, really, really important. And Alec Lace is an author called First Class Fatherhood, but he also has a podcast, which I've been on, and it's outstanding, called First Class Fatherhood. Alec, before we get into fatherhood and men and society and things like that, let's get into you really quickly. Give us your bio. Where'd you come from? Who are you?
Yeah, I'm a father of four, Jesse, and thanks for having me on the show here. I'm a father of four, married for 18 years. I'm a railroad mechanic. I've been doing that for 23 years. I'm also a recovering alcoholic and addict and gambling maniac. And part of my story goes from years ago, I got a lifetime ban from Giant Stadium. Fast forward, I was invited by the NFL to come to the Super Bowl the last 5 years to interview the players about fatherhood before the big game. So that's the kind of turnaround this has been. And I started this show, First Class Fatherhood, back in 2018, just because so many young men have this warped idea of what it means to get married, start a family. And I drive a lot of Uber part-time on the side as a side hustle. And all the young guys, when I would tell them I have 4 kids, they looked at me like I have 4 heads. And I would tell them, hey, listen, this isn't the end of the world when you become a father. Like, they had this fear of like, oh, I'll never have kids. And so I wanted to turn that mindset around. It felt like I should put a recording on tape for all these young guys. And that's why I kind of launched a podcast. And I've had some success with it. And I've been blessed to have over 700 dads, yourself included, on the show, just to spread the message about becoming a father, starting a family, and it being the greatest fulfillment you're going to get out of life.
Alec, merge these two worlds for me, because I struggle with this. I'm a dad. You and I have talked about this on your show before. I love being a dad. You love being a dad. It's like my favorite thing in the world. It's the best. And yet, as you just mentioned, so much of society's scared of it, or they act like it's some kind of burden, or man, it sucks, when it's the best thing ever. How's that possible? How could the best thing ever be looked down upon by so much of our society?
Yeah, it's almost like fatherhood's become the best kept secret because our society has destroyed manhood. It's destroyed men. There's an attack on men. There's an attack on masculinity, and it's been coming for a long time now. So when men don't value themselves, don't see their value, they don't look for things like this. And becoming a father is really when your life actually begins. It's the greatest sense of maturity you're going to get. It gives a drive in you. People are afraid of, kids cost too much money. But kids become like this driving force in you to start creating more money, creating more wealth, creating more opportunity like nothing else does on this planet. But our society and our culture has been just trying to diminish men and emasculate them into thinking that they're worthless and they bring no value to society. And that mindset's got to shift. And that's why when I bring these guys on, influencers are all over the internet. Social media is a powerful tool. We need these guys that are known for all these other things, like I bring on the show, Super Bowl MVPs, Navy SEALs, Academy Award winners. They're known for all these things, and they have influence so much over the young minds of America. We need them to be a voice for fatherhood. We need them to be ambassadors for fatherhood and encourage these young men that this is going to be the thing that brings you to fulfillment, not this material stuff that the world is trying to tell you to go after. That's not where the true happiness lies.
Alec, I have no doubt there are a bunch of new fathers or soon-to-be fathers out there, and they get nervous. Lots of men do. They don't have an instruction manual in front of them. Give us some wisdom. What's some advice for these guys?
Well, I would just say like ABCs is for me. It would say, adapt. You got to be willing to adapt. A lot of dads want their kids to do the same things that they did. And a lot of times it doesn't work out that way. So you have to be willing to adapt and get into the things that your kids are interested in. So, for instance, my oldest son became interested in chess at a young age. I never played the game before in my life. I learned how to play it so I could play with him. Now the whole family plays it. We love it. So you have to be willing to adapt to the movies they like and show interest in what they're interested in. I would say B, bend, don't break. Be willing to bend the rules if your kids are going to give you a decent argument. Allow them a chance to explain their point of view. So if they want to do something that you were first against, bend, but don't break your morals. Don't break your values in doing so. So allow them to have a chance to change the rules once in a while. And then C, calm is contagious. And this comes from a lot of the, military guys like yourself, guys that will say, things are going to go wrong, especially when you're a new dad. You're ready to leave the house. The kids are all dressed, and then he craps his pants. And then, he knocks the food bowl over at the dinner table. Things are going to happen that are going to make you want to just start to lose your stuff. But you got to try to remain calm, and then your wife will remain calm, and the kid will remain calm, and the kids will kind of follow that pattern. So try to stay calm, even though things start to get a little chaotic, especially in them early days.
Education. Your book talks about this. Education. This is something dads usually wash their hands of, right? Mom takes care of the homework with the kids. Talk to us about kids in education.
Scary time right now. My oldest is a senior in high school, so we're starting to look at this college world, and we're seeing 43 million Americans begging to have their college tuition paid off. So we're thinking, wait a minute, 43 million Americans paid for college and don't have a degree worth any money to pay back these loans. Why are we going to send our kid down the same path? Education is very bad in this country right now, particularly the public school. We got our kids in the Catholic school system. A lot of parents around the country are homeschooling now more than ever before, because of the corrupt indoctrination that's come through the pipeline of the school system. But education, what the kids don't get there is any kind of financial education. We're not teaching these kids what to do with a dollar, how to invest. So you got to help your kids get the right books to read, find the right people on social media to follow, to educate themselves into financial literacy. And that's something that's always missed. It's never taught, but it's something that we all are going to need. We're all going to know how to pay bills. We're all going to need to do things like that. So you have to get your kids some type of financial sense early on. Also, trade skills. Like I said, I've been a mechanic for my whole life, a railroad mechanic for 23 years. I teach my kids how to change flat tires, how to change and check their oil. These are basic necessity skills that fathers need to teach their sons and their daughters. I think it's vitally important. Some of this ABC stuff in school has gotten so warped, but giving them the basics that they're going to need for survival in life is far more important.
Alec, talk about phones. My sons have phones. We did not give them phones or smartphones early on. Eventually, we kind of gave in and gave them some phones just so they could stay in contact with us, but we tightly control those things because I understand how damaging it can be. How do you handle the phone situation in your house?
Very difficult, Jesse, and I know parents are struggling with this big time. My older guys, my 17 and 16-year-old, when I struggle with something in technology, I call on them. Hey, how do I beam this to the TV? I used to be the guy in the house that set up the VCRs. My old man would call me and say, hey, how do you set this thing up? And I used to be the guy that did that. Now I feel like a dummy because I'm like, hey, I don't know how this thing works. What is this? So they know far more about the technology than we do. And if anybody has seen Sound of Freedom out there, the movie that beat Indiana Jones and Dial 1 for wokeness, You talk to these guys that are dealing with sex traffickers. Like I had the guy recently on the show from Operation Underground Railroad. They're using the technology to get through these kids. That's their window into your kid's world. So if you're not monitoring who they're talking to, or at least asking them questions, there's no way to stop it. Because even if you don't give your kids a phone, if you don't give them access to the internet, their friends are going to have it. They're going to find somebody in a schoolyard who does. So they're forcing parents to have these kind of conversations earlier than you would like to with your kids. But social media is one thing that my kids, as far as I know, they don't have any social media accounts. I never had one until I started the podcast. I think social media is great for building businesses and making connections. I think it's horrible for what it's done to our culture, but you got to try to have these conversations and say, hey, this is what you're going to see, and start talking to them about it. But you got to watch who they're communicating with, because they think they're talking to somebody that's their age, or some girl that's sending them pictures and they're like, oh, wow, this girl likes me. But really it's some 62-year-old dude in his house that's communicating with your kid. They do it through the Xbox system. They do it through PlayStation. They do it through these live chat rooms. And that's their window into these kids' world. So you got to try to educate yourself on the technology as best as you can to try to stay ahead of it. And it is not easy. It's much easier said than done.
What's the most common mistake you see dads make?
Well, I would say most common, I think, thing that bothers me the most is the veteran dads that warn the new dads about just wait till your kid starts walking, just wait till your kid starts talking, and your social life's going to go to hell. You're never going to get laid anymore. You're never going to be able to go out and watch the game anymore. I wish dads would stop doing that more to these new dads or these guys that are just getting married. I think that's a big mistake, and I think we need to turn that mindset around and try to encourage these dads to say, hey, wait till you get a chance to throw the ball around with your kid. Wait till you get a chance to take your kid to the ball game. Wait till you get a chance to go fishing with your kid. Your life's going to get better. And stop this scare tactics. And too many dads are making that mistake. We got to really rally around our young men in this country and encourage them to stay with it. The divorce race is true to ceiling in this country. The fatherless crisis is an epidemic. Too many fathers walking away from their kids' lives. Too many guys giving up on their marriages at the first sign of any kind of trouble. So these are the things that we need the veteran dads, the veteran husbands, to step up and help to mentor these young guys that are coming up now, because we need our families in this country, Jesse. That's the key to all of this stuff. The direction the country is going in is directly related to the fact that our nuclear families have been destroyed in this country. And until we get that problem solved, nothing else that we're trying to fix, homelessness, crime, suicide, teenage pregnancy, none of it is going to change unless we can strengthen our family units. So we need these guys that have had success in marriage, have had success raising their kids, to give that back, reach back and pull up the guy behind you, and let's strengthen these family units in the country, man.
No, amen. Alec, I appreciate you, brother.
Jesse, always a pleasure.
Now, let's deal with something else. Something may make you uncomfortable. Our physical health. Okay, I'm not gonna lecture you. I'm not gonna preach to you. But Alexander Cortez, my friend, is gonna join us next. We're gonna talk about the physical, all right? Because it does matter. Hang on.
The Return to American Manhood, brought to you by CHOQ. The Return to American Manhood, brought to you by CHOQ.
You gotta love this doozy from MSNBC, and I don't mean to pick on them because they're not the first or only ones to do this, but the far right's obsession with fitness is going digital. And another article titled, Why the Far Right is Really into Home Fitness. What an odd thing to make political. I wonder what the deal is with this. Joining me now, personal trainer, someone I recommend to you, by the way, Alexander Cortez. Okay, Alexander, fitness is now a right-wing thing? Do I have that right?
You're correct, Jesse. Fitness is now a right-wing belief. If you care about your health, you exercise, you want to be in shape, you believe in physical excellence, these are all fascist beliefs now. They're white supremacy, apparently, depending on who you ask. And if you believe in them, you're a bad person.
What's the angle here? There's got to be an angle. These people, they just want us fat? Is that it?
They do. The simple reality of this, a soft body is a soft mind. If you are a man where you're overweight, corpulent, you don't care about your body, you're not a threat to the system. When we see fit, aesthetic, good-looking, healthy men, you are the enemy. you're the people that they fear. They don't want you looking like that. They don't want you to have that kind of strength. They want you to get tired from jogging 100 feet and to need to sit down and use a power chair. That's the ideal American male consumer at this point.
Let's talk about the male body. It's not made to sit around the couch, is it? That's not how God designed these bodies of ours. Why do we have shoulders like this and hips like this? Why are we this way?
Men are evolved, designed, whichever one you want to believe. Men are built for violence. We have thicker joints. We have denser bones. We have more muscle. Our bodies are designed for physical toil, for labor, for fighting. That's what we are built for. But if you want to have those actual qualities, you have to train them. This is why they hate fitness so much. If you're a bro, if you are a fit individual, you know that strength, muscle, power, you can't fake these things. You can't imitate them. You earn them through hard work, through discipline, through sacrifice. The human body is not equal. Genetics are real. But all these things today in the current political climate, these are right wing. Leftists have declared that you can't think these things. You can't even speak of them without offending somebody, without potentially upsetting and triggering someone.
You talk about testosterone levels a lot, and this is one of those things that makes people uncomfortable. It makes guys uncomfortable. It's almost like we don't want to acknowledge that it exists. Testosterone is really, really, really important. The levels are going down, and that's a really bad thing. Talk about it.
So testosterone levels have been declining for about 40 years, and there is abundant research, statistical evidence to back this up. This is not speculation. As testosterone levels go down, male fertility goes down. Critical thinking ability goes down. There's this mistaken belief that testosterone is just about sex. It's only about sex drive. It's not true. Testosterone is what enables men to think logically. The reason why we have spatial reasoning, the reason why we have critical thinking ability is because of our T levels. So it goes back to men being soft body. A soft body is a soft mind. If you have a obese physique and you're low T, you can barely function as a man. And you're far more susceptible to left-wing communist propaganda programming. You're weak. So you're going to try to enforce your weakness upon reality itself.
You talk about sunlight a lot. You brought it up during COVID a lot, and I love this because people don't think about time in the sun and why that matters at all. Why should I ever go see the sun? It's hot.
Human beings are designed to be in the sun. Your entire circadian rhythm, the hormonal function of your body depends upon your exposure to sunlight. This is all factually true. This is basic science. If you're never in the sun, your testosterone levels can become dysregulated. Your sleep, the production of melatonin becomes dysregulated. Even hunger hormones like leptin and ghrelin, they become dysregulated. When you're inside all day, you're more likely to be fat, overweight, tired, low energy, low sex drive. Being inside, you're cucking yourself with your health. So how much should you go outside? Going outside for 10, 20 minutes in the morning can change your entire hormonal function the entire day. It's such a basic thing. But we're told the sun is dangerous for us. We're told it's something that is 100% essential for our health, is going to give us cancer, and it's a threat. And we should never be outside. We should never expose ourselves to it. It's BS. Total BS, top to bottom.
Right now, there's somebody watching this, many people watching this, and they're out of shape. Okay, but it is what it is. They're out of shape. They know they want to get in shape. Where do they begin? Do you run down to the local CrossFit gym and work out for an hour if you haven't been doing anything? Where does somebody begin if they're just starting, they're fat, they want to change it, or they're just soft? What do they do? What do you tell them?
You want to start with small victories. You're not going to go from 0 to 100 in a week. It's not happening. If it took you 20 years to become overweight, you're not fixing that in 2 days or 2 months. But start with 0 and go to 1. If you can start walking for 10 minutes a day, just doing that by itself, 10-minute walk each day when you wake up, and then make it a 20-minute walk or add in an evening walk. You're walking 20 minutes a day. Start changing your diet. Start not drinking your calories. Start consuming more protein. Start with these small steps. String together 1, 2, 3, 4 days, 7 days, 3 weeks of small victories, and then you can start pursuing more challenging goals. Go to the gym twice a week. Hire a trainer if you have no idea what you're doing. Clean up your diet gradually. And these small things, this is the power of habit. Day to day, it's not going to feel like you're doing much, but in a year, it all compounds. You could look dramatically different 365 days from now. You could be completely unrecognizable. But it starts with getting up to walk. That basic.
How about that? What's this seed oil thing? This is another thing that I've seen recently. People are seed oil this and seed oil that. I got to be honest, I don't even know what they are. I'm sure I consume all of them all the time. What is this?
So seed oils refers to this category of industrialized oils that are in fact extracted from seeds and vegetables. And they tend to be what's called carcinogenic. They have a lot of deleterious effects on living organisms. But they're easy to cook with. They're easy to mass produce. They're very profitable for the food industry. So they're used in almost everything now that you could think of. From processed food to baked goods to, if you go to fast food, you go for burger, probably potentially cooked with seed oils. And there's this movement online now where people are trying to be more healthy. They're trying to follow more of an ancestral diet to eat to support their body. And seed oils, because of these potential negative effects, they're very demonized, and rightly so. But it's also become something of a meme. So being healthy is not necessarily about cutting out all the seed oils in your diet, but it represents this overall idea where you're paying attention to what you consume. Because what you consume, the physical raw matter that you eat, that's going to literally create your body. So if you can cut out some of those seed oils, not have so much fried food, overall it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. I would seek him out if you're looking to get in shape. Reach out to him, Alexander Cortez. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it.
There's another thing about being a man. It's a manhood special, right? Faith. Why does that matter? We're going to talk to Michael Foster about it next. Why does it matter? Before we get to that, let's talk about those T levels. You heard him. They're in free fall. This are. And we need to address that. So what do we do to address it? I'm sure you've seen it. There's a low T clinic at every other shop, everywhere now. This is the thing. You go get these injections and stuff like that. Do you think injections are the way to go? Or do you think you should pursue a healthier, more natural way? How about a male vitality stack from CHOQ, natural herbal supplements? 20% increase in your testosterone in 90 days. You just heard Alexander. Think how much better your mind will work with a 20% increase, let alone get on it for a year. Go get a male vitality stack from CHOQ, fellas. They have a female vitality stack for you ladies. But fellas, male vitality stack, trust me on this. CHOQ.com. Promo code Jesse, 90 days. Give it 90 days and tell me how you feel. CHOQ.com, promo code Jesse, that gets you 35% off subscriptions. Go, all right? We'll be back.
The Return to American Manhood, brought to you by CHOQ. The Return to American Manhood, brought to you by CHOQ.
I don't care if you're talking to a purple hair feminist or a guy that could bench press 400 pounds. Everyone's saying the same thing, that our young men in this country, they're not doing well. So we want to help you to pave a way forward. We're going where Nehemiah took the people of Israel. They didn't rebuild Jerusalem in a night, but they were able to rebuild a wall. Together, we're going to fight with God against the sin in our own heart, the sin in this world, and we're going to be the men He made us to be. So let's do it.
Gosh, it's so refreshing to hear a pastor talk like that. Joining me now, Michael Foster, pastor of East River Church and co-author of It's Good to Be a Man. Michael, pastor, why this? Why not focus on turning the other cheek and all that other stuff? Why this?
Because as the men go, so goes society, right? Men are God designed them to be leaders. And if we're not taking care of our men, and we haven't been taking care of our men, we've allowed them to be ravaged by Adderall, ravaged by feminists, ravaged by a school system that's not designed for them. And so you got a lot of discouraged men, and you can't build a courageous culture with discouraged men.
Pastor, that's one of the things that has hit me so hard, especially since I started doing this media thing 4 or 5 years ago, was how many men are just discouraged, down, out, flat out, have given up, bitter, everything sucks, my life sucks, my wife sucks, everything sucks, the country sucks, just down and out men. And honestly, it's one of the things that bums me out a lot. We have a lot of very, very sad men in this country.
Absolutely. I mean, they call that being black-pilled, and it's not without cause. There are a lot of things to be upset about. And what I think has happened is there's kind of been a generational loss of what once was common sense. It's like a kind of tsunami is the way I think about it. A tsunami wave comes in, it destroys things, and then it goes back out. The wave washes things out to sea. So a lot of things that used to be common knowledge, to look someone in their eye, shake hands, how to talk to women, how to carry yourself, how to get things done, they disappeared. But the older kind of boomerish generation, sometimes they don't realize that young people grew up without what they took for granted. And so a lot of times you'll have these pastors screaming at men to man up. But if you don't know how to be a man, telling someone to man up doesn't matter, right? And sometimes if you do know what it means to be a man, yeah, step up and do it. But we really have to start re-educating people on these things. And some of them seem real basic to some folks, but they're important, you know? And I have people that are scared to make phone calls, talk to people on the phone. It's because they grew up mediated by screens. They grew up inundated with fake relationships on social media. And so actually knowing how to carry themselves in human relationships is hard. And so they need men willing to teach them basic things. And that's why guys like Jordan Peterson kind of became like a father figure to a lot of these guys, or an uncle they look up to. And the church is failing. The church is not speaking to this issue, and we should.
I'm 100% with you on that. It is something that I express my frustration with a lot, is the American church. And I don't criticize it because I hate it. I criticize it because I love it. And I have found so much of Americanized Christianity these days to be so mealy-mouthed and lukewarm and wishy-washy. We don't talk about politics. Okay, well, there's one side of this country, not that either side is great, one side of this country, they're trying to mutilate little kids and kill babies. How can you not speak boldly about that from the pulpit? That's where we need it. More than our congressman, I need my pastor to get involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the American church is ran by a managerial class of nice guys that appease moderates. Moderates are always liberals in larvae form. You know which way they're going to go. They punch right. And these guys, since they're kind of a managerial class, anytime they see strong men come in the church, they get nervous because they might lose the status that they gain simply by memorizing and being able to articulate theological data. Doesn't matter if they've actually mastered it in their life. So we have a church that's supposedly ran by nice guys, but it's really usually a shadow government of feministic elders' wives that run the church. And these guys are scared to speak the truth.
Oh. You have a Substack where you talk about 4 major topics: biblical sexuality, productive households, biblical localism, and intergenerationalism. And actually, we can talk about any of those, and we can if you want, but I want to focus on biblical localism. What are you talking about there?
Yeah, so I think my church started during the pandemic. So we actually opened, our first Sunday was 135 people. We've grown to over 300. And a lot of the people in my church were shamed at their previous churches for basically being supportive of President Trump. And we don't think Trump's like great in all things, whatever, but as of the options out there, it's pretty clear who you should be, voting for if you love America. And we do. So, but when things went kind of sideways in the 2020 election, it became clear that trying to fix things from the top bottom at a federal level for the average American person is pointless. So the question is, where can you take action? What can you actually do? And so we call it biblical localism, giving priority to the time and place God puts you. I'm not going to focus on what happened in Geneva in the 1600s, not that it matters. We can learn a lot from it, but I'm right here. I'm right here in America in 2023. What can I do? Can I get involved in my local village council? The small villages and towns in America, you can get on village council with like 100, 150 votes. You can actually have a ton of influences by being part of a local swim club or a YMCA or whatever. Like, where can you get involved in and start to build kind of a little sanctuary, a place where sanity is still allowed? And so biblical localism is about Christians, living out their faith in the day to day in the community God has placed them. And that's what we urge our people to. A lot of news, people forget that the news alerts at the bottom of news shows, they were reserved for actual alerts like tornadoes or something. But then, OJ drove his Bronco down the highway, and then people realized if you have a news alert at the bottom, you'll listen. And now, like, oh, this is a news alert and that's a news alert. I don't care about Ukraine. I don't care. I didn't care about any of these things, and it didn't change my life. It doesn't matter. It may matter to people that have actual connections and actual influence. I don't. What can I do but talk about it? I do care about what's going on in my local community because I have a lot of control over it. And if I don't check out the news for a week or two, nothing changes. The things people are saying were the end of the world last week have been replaced by new things. It was like all the different variants, right? You got this variant of COVID, and now it's the Velociraptor variant of COVID, and none of it mattered. Like, if I just ignored it, my life stayed the same out here in rural Ohio, and it was fantastic. So we're telling people, look, you want to watch the news, that's fine, but ask yourself, what action can you take on this information in the next week, the next month, even in the next year? And if you can't do anything on it in the next year, then it's just really a bunch of talking heads, exchanging information and being apathetic. And people didn't take our culture from us by the point of a gun. We surrendered it by not making things and doing things. So it's a call to action.
Amen. Pastor, thank you so much. I wish I had more time because that was awesome.
Thank you. Take care. God bless.
The owner of CHOQ is going to join us next. Hang on. Listen to what this guy has to say. We'll be back.
The Return to American Manhood, brought to you by CHOQ. The Return to American Manhood, brought to you by CHOQ.
When I talk about T levels for a society, sometimes people can say, wow, I'm sure, old guys. Well, yeah, once you're 70. Did you know that 1 in 4 men over 30 have T levels that are free falling? We're not even going to be here as a society if this trend continues. We have to reverse it. And I figured my friends at CHOQ, specifically the big cheese, Seton Collard, could talk about this more intelligently than I ever could. Okay, Seton, first of all, why are they dropping? I mean, a 50% drop in 50 years is a staggering number. That something caused that. That wasn't just, it didn't just happen. What's causing it?
It's staggering, Jesse. It's extremely troubling and to the point of being on a path to extinction if this trend is not reversed. So I cannot overstate the importance of this. That's why I'm here with you today and why we have CHOQ as part of your show and everything that you're doing. The reasons, I think they vary. One thing that we look at, you talk a lot about the societal and political aspects of low T with the low T GOP and the attempted communist takeover, where of course they first target the military age males who are able and ready to fight and lead and other things like that. One thing that a lot of people don't realize, there's been studies of tap water in major cities. And if you think about what's going on in American society today, where you have so many people on pharmaceutical drugs, a cocktail of them on the day-to-day basis, and you have a lot of women on birth control, which is essentially a very potent, high amount of estrogen. And then you think about where our water comes from, frankly, that, people urinate, and then that is filtered with these great chemicals that the government's adding for our health and safety to the tap water. Well, those things don't filter out the pharmaceuticals. So you're drinking in tap water and showering, bathing in, and drinking from the hose and everything like that. And a cocktail of pharmaceuticals, one that I'd like to point to is really the estrogen from birth control. So you have all these women on birth control that gets recycled in the water supply. and then people drink and bathe in it. They've also talked about, and large news publications have admitted this, the plastics, BPA, and things like that, the chemicals. There's basically a chemical cocktail that people are exposed to from a young age that you didn't have before. So those are things that we look at and care about here at CHOQ, and why we provide the herbs and supplements that we do.
What does T level, what is raising testosterone? What does it do for a man? Because I think a lot of men just consider it to be something, well, I'm making babies with the wife. It's a lot more than that. This is something critical that we need. It's part of who we are, right?
It's a fundamental piece to being a man, and people think the making babies piece is the only thing with testosterone, but it's much more than that. And actually something that you talk about often on your show, there's been this demonization of masculinity here, which we're talking about today, that people some people think that testosterone makes men aggressive and erratic and violent and things like this. But there was even a political cartoon I remember from when Trump was elected about this guy, and he had something about testosterone, and he's just like a brute animal. In fact, the opposite is true, that higher levels of testosterone are associated with emotional calm, optimism, and stabilization, where lower levels of testosterone cause this erratic emotion that you see in people at the at some of the rallies out there wearing the pink hats and things like that. So it has to do with good sleep, optimism, and most importantly, something that I wanted to talk to you about, the higher levels of testosterone are associated with the eagerness and willingness and desire to take on challenging things. And if you look at the state of society and the state of males in our society, and particularly in America, and you see what's happening where many young men are withdrawing from society and basically checking out or not addressing these challenges that face us that may sometimes seem insurmountable. But in the past, the strong men and groups of people who are willing to take on the challenge were the only thing that ever changed the world. So the eagerness to take on challenges is a key aspect of healthy and high testosterone levels that people may overlook often.
See, when someone gets a subscription, I tell people all the time about subscriptions. And obviously, they know about the financial benefits of doing that. 35% off is no friggin' joke. So I appreciate that. What do they expect? Where do we go from there?
So CHOQ provides the highest quality herbs and herb extracts, and you will feel a difference. The reason we do the subscription, of course, you can buy one time if you like, but the best results, and most of our ingredients are clinically studied to boost testosterone in healthy adult males. The best results come from consistent daily intake. And I have so many supplements that I bought where my wife has put them over here and where they're spilling out, where if you have a subscription, it comes to your door every month. You take it consistently and you get consistent results. And so we found that's the best for all parties.
Seton, is it just the male vitality stack? Now, as you know, that's the one I love. That's the one I've taken for, gosh, it's been over a year now. So I love it, to put it mildly, but is that all you have at CHOQ?
We have a wide variety of products, including things for women. And believe me, our show's on the war on masculinity here, but there's a lot of problems facing women and girls just the same. So we do have a female vitality stack, which can balance hormones, increase vitality for the ladies as well. We have our chocolate powder, which I know you enjoy in the smoothies. You can also have in a hot cocoa. It's the real chocolate, the organic cacao, which has a variety of benefits, including a nice natural stimulation like a coffee, and some sugar in there, and you can add sugar to taste if you like. An Action 2.0, which is a nitric oxide booster, essentially a pre-workout formula. So there's a variety of things for everybody at CHOQ.com.
CHOQ.com. I've been telling you, go get a subscription, make your life better. Seton, I love you, brother. You know I do. I appreciate you. Thanks for giving me a few minutes. I know you're running a successful company, so I appreciate it.
Love you too, Jesse. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, maybe you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, that was a great special. Jesse, I want to be the ultimate man. So what do? Well, here's what you need to do. You need to find a goal, all right? Who's the ultimate man? Well, I just think you should find somebody who builds sheds with their bare hands, who makes the greatest cheeseburger on the face of the planet, who wrote a best-selling book. Just find somebody like that. Maybe that has the initials JK. All right? That's what you need to aspire to. All right, I'll see you.
The Return to American Manhood, brought to you by CHOQ.